The most irreparable thing happened in her life. Her husband is gone. All events have been cut short. It's impossible for her to be without him. They were happy. She was always waiting for him from a trip. He worked in trucking. He was satisfied with his work, but he spent little time at home. The pay was good, so he was happy to work. Deborah missed her husband and often asked to go with him. But her husband Tim did not want to take her, saying that he had a lot to do at work and would have no time to communicate with her. Tim asked her not to be offended, but there was no time for her at work. Yes, and wife is safer and cozier at home. The couple had been together since their school years, and after their studies, they started to think about getting married. At first, they worked wherever they could. But gradually, Tim became attracted to transportation, and Deborah started working as an accountant. They lived like that for about 6 years. She waited for him when he got back from a trip. One day, when Deborah woke up, she felt uneasy, as if something was troubling her, weighing her down. She called her husband. He seemed to be fine and promised to be home in a few hours. Deborah promised a delicious dinner, but something was troubling her. She chased the thoughts away from her, found something to do to distract herself. But everything was falling apart. And then that phone call came. She got a call that her husband Tim had been in an accident. Deborah's mind went into overdrive, and she started to feel uncomfortable. Her hands began to shake. She fainted and went to the clinic. There, the doctor diagnosed her with a heart problem. She was forbidden to worry, to be nervous. And there was enough nervousness in those days. Her Tim didn't make it. He was gone. Everything changed in her life. At home, Deborah was forbidden to stay alone. A friend often lived with her, sometimes her mother. Often her colleagues came. Deborah automatically reacted to the condolences, wishing that all this was just a bad dream. She could not believe that it had happened to them. They advised her to cry, that it would be easier, but there were no tears, or rather there were, but for some reason they did not want to come out. Everything reminded her of her husband. Every corner of the house, every moment. It's even easier for her that they don't have children. She can't take care of herself in a difficult period. What kind of mom is she? Deborah didn't feel like going anywhere. She went out for a walk 6 months later when a strange stranger approached her. She looked intently at Deborah and whispered that it was meant to be. That you were not meant to be together. Deborah jumped up, wanting to question the woman. But the stranger was already running away, making a hurried appearance. She only turned around and on the way through Deborah to forget Tim, that she was meant for someone else. Don't sit in the past. Leave him. Deborah caught her every word, but those words of the stranger rocked the woman's health again. How did that stranger know anything about anything? Who was she? The stranger vanished as if she never existed. Deborah was back in the clinic, and the doctors were looking for a cure. They were recommending that all the shocks be removed. It would be nice to have a change of scenery. Maybe she should go to the seaside. Get some sun. She needs peace only. Peace and positive emotions. Deborah looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't like her reflection. She looked drained. The cheerful and charming woman had disappeared. In the mirror was an old woman with a faded look, with unkempt hair. Deborah's mother took it upon herself to organize a trip on vacation. She called all agencies, connected all her acquaintances, and picked up a great option. There, by the way, you can not only rest, but also to be treated and monitored by a doctor. Mom thought that there was no stranger, probably just visions manifested on nervous ground. Deborah was surprised that everyone wanted her out of the house. They were all happy to see her leave. But the people around her were sorry to see her sad and withdrawn. They wanted to meet her later. Cheerful, cheerful. Sitting in the cabin of the airplane, Deborah thought that she was flying to a new life, or rather she should have. Thought so, but for some reason there was no joy. Yes, there was no hope for happy changes. The seaside town met Deborah with torrential rain. She, with difficulty, was able to persuade the cab driver to take her to the place of rest. He emotionally explained that in such a downpour should not go better. We should wait until at least a little bit lightens up. There were black clouds in the sky, but the woman was adamant, sighing heavily and complaining about her hard life. She tried to persuade the cab driver. He helped her load her things and the journey began. They made it, despite the gloomy predictions of the satellite. The building was beautiful. Deborah liked the interiors. She was warmly welcomed and escorted to her room. Once in the room, Deborah began to sort through her bag of belongings and then went out on the balcony to admire the view of the sea. Deborah looked at everything that was nearby and suddenly a shrill voice was heard nearby, not happy. This voice was apparently expressing displeasure toward her husband. What kind of man are you? You can't do anything. You're a real bastard. And I have to do everything myself. Why did I marry you? I drag you upstairs, but it's no use. 0 is not a number. It's a disgrace. I asked for a view of what? Where are the mountains? I'm asking. Deborah's shrinking from this scolding, but it seems she's not having any luck with her neighbors. She's changed. What kind of nerves can take it? She tried to keep a low profile so as not to be seen by the couple, but curiosity got the better of her. How can you make a scandal from day one? And what? Was the owner of such an unpleasant voice? And then a shouting woman came out onto the balcony. She made an impression on Deborah. She's beautiful, but nothing of nature. Everything has been redone, and more than once by plastic surgeons. She's well-groomed. You can't take that away. But how to live with such a thing? I don't understand. And who dares to live with her? And then, as if by order, the voice of her companion finally sounded. He was explaining the impossibility of staying in other rooms. Yes, and she ordered to go to this place. The man went to the balcony too. Deborah decided not to get involved in their squabble. She took a frantic breath of air, and all the voices disappeared, and her dead husband was standing in front of her. Another vision. The woman didn't want to follow the strange couple anymore. She hurried off the balcony and hurried downstairs, scaring the pale girl at the front desk. She asked how to find a doctor. She had already told him about the strange phenomenon, literally a copy of her husband. Even scared, she came to recuperate, and these scandals from the first minute seemed strange. The doctor thought about it and offered to move Deborah to another room while there was room, and she agreed. Deborah went back to the room to get her things, and there was another scandal behind the wall. Now the owner of Model Looks was screaming that she had been deceived again, and she was not going to forgive her hapless companion for something. Do you know who you are after that? I asked for this contract, I asked, says the woman. And now everyone's laughing at me. But you ruined it. You didn't have to make the scriptwriter rewrite it the way you wanted it rewritten. Don't you dare contradict me, shrieked the beauty. I wanted it that way, so it had to be. Why are you laughing at me? Loser. I made you a man. She was going to get the hell out of here. She had no business being here. Her man was silent. He didn't argue. He didn't even try to stop her. And that even hurt Deborah. How could that be? He chose her, and now he's so happy to be rid of a scandalized woman. Suddenly, she was listening to the neighbors talking. Then there was a soft knock on her room door. The boy had been sent to help her move her things. I don't know. Deborah smiled guiltily. It seems the main reason for the move itself. Eliminated. How's that? The boy asked. So you're staying here? But if you change your mind, tell me. And he ran off to run a new errand. Deborah went out on the balcony again. Now she saw no point in hiding. She could stand quietly without fear of being an unwitting witness to someone else's misfortune. But calmness lasted only a minute. Then the one who had caused such excitement appeared nearby. Hello. Her husband's doppelganger addressed Lisa politely. He looked just like him. Good afternoon. Stammering with excitement, Deborah replied, I'm sorry, but I unintentionally overheard your quarrel. Embarrassed. She began to say, but the neighbor only waved his hand. He said he was glad she'd left. It was time to stop this balagaza. When I married a nice girl, there was nothing artificial, but as soon as things went uphill, it was like she was replaced. All she did was go to surgeons, changing her appearance. But today was the last straw. Turns out she was having an affair with my ex-partner behind my back. Come on, it's all long gone. Just finally, I'll spend a normal time without hysterics and scandals. I came for a vacation. Would you like to keep me company? This neighbor asked Deborah. No. Deborah frowned. I don't need romance on vacation. She was coming here because the doctor said she needed a change of scenery to recover from the stress of my husband's death. Deborah's voice trembled. She also added that this neighbor and her husband looked a lot alike. You look so much like him. You look just like him. It can't be. The neighbor calmly remarked. I don't have doppelgangers. I've never seen one. Deborah even took out a photo of her husband and showed it to me. They do look alike, the man agreed. But since we found ourselves here at the same time, and even in neighboring rooms, let's communicate without prospects, without obligations, just communication. Do you agree? He asked. Deborah hesitated. She didn't answer. He said his name, Michael. They managed to find a common language. The man turned out to be an interesting interlocutor. They both liked the Impressionists. Both were interested in modern art. There was no love at first sight, but gradually those who came to treat their nerves became friends. Closer to the middle of the stay, the doctor also noted with satisfaction the improvement in Deborah's condition. And Deborah herself no longer shied away from her own reflection. Again her hair lay in a lush wave on her shoulders, and her eyes were shining. Even her gait changed. But now the stay by the sea came to an end. They exchanged phone numbers, agreed to call each other. Neither wanted to part, but neither dared to break the agreement. No obligations. And now Deborah is back on the plane, but now she is returning home. Mom threw up her hands, seeing her daughter, a different person at last. I see my daughter. Did you meet anyone there? Or were you always alone? Well, just like that, said Deborah, but nothing serious. We just talked and walked, and that's all. If only there wasn't one thing. It was a copy of my Tim. What? Mother looked at daughter in amazement. A copy? Come on, tell me more. Listening to her daughter's story, Mom thought for a moment, and then she said decisively, You know, you're right about one thing. Everything was decided from above. If you've already met like this, well, then don't lose it. I'm sure. I'm telling you, you won't fool me. But he's married. The daughter noted. Maybe he'll get divorced. Maybe not. But anyway, then and now he's not free. And he lives far away. And his business is serious. Rest from the road, daughter. I'll do some housekeeping for you, cook. And then we'll chat, but the vacation had to be canceled. Colleagues and friends called, asking how Deborah had flown, how she was feeling. You should have called him. Mom suggested. He's so interested in you. I can feel it. And you're not indifferent to him either. So what are you waiting for? Fate has given you such a chance. Are you really going to miss it? Without waiting for an answer, the guest grumbled and got ready to go home. A few days later, Deborah returned to her usual life, home, work, but now she was much calmer. There was no such nagging longing for Tim. But there was a sense of anticipation that everything was about to change, and for some reason Deborah was not afraid of this feeling at all. A week later, the phone rang. I just arrived. Can you meet me? Or should I come straight to you? Where have you flown in? Deborah was amazed by the unexpectedness. Flew to you, laughed Michael. Should I come to your work or to your home? He showed up at her work and everyone gasped when they saw him. He really is a copy of Tim. Michael hastened to declare that he was now a free man and therefore did not intend to drag it out. I remember that we agreed on a no-strings-attached basis, but I can't do that. N was determined to get married right away. Deborah explained that he was in too much of a hurry. The only thing that Deborah managed to bargain for was a promise to give her 6 months to prepare, to collect her thoughts. But she could not even imagine that Michael had already thought of everything. He soon persuaded his bride to move in with him, to start working in his company. And they got married later, when they already knew that they would have a baby. The couple no longer doubted that their meeting was the work of fate itself. And that stranger woman who predicted the future, it was quite possible that this was that very fate. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are many more interesting stories ahead. Thank you.